Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for convening this important hearing, and to all of our witnesses who are here today. It is indeed a pleasure to see you. As Florida's former Secretary of State, I appreciate how important your jobs are and how critical your jobs are to American confidence in elections and ensuring that we have free and fair elections in the United States. So thank you to all of you for being here today. Secretary Byrd, I'd like to go back to you. You mentioned in your opening a couple of concepts that I think are very important as it relates to public confidence and really an example of some of the best practices that we could see in elections in our country. I'd like to start with voting systems and transparency. Is it correct, Secretary Byrd, that the Florida Department of State tests and certifies every voting system before it is used in an election?
That is correct.
Is it also true, Secretary Byrd, that before an election, local election officials perform testing and auditing of those systems again before they're used?
Yes.
And that testing and auditing of the election systems prior to every election is open to the public, is it not?
Absolutely open to the public.
And would you tell us this, while voting is going on during elections, are those voting systems ever connected to the internet?
They are not connected to the internet.
In other words, Secretary Byrd, is it possible to hack a voting system during an election?
It is not.
Would you tell us, Secretary, why it is you think that these measures you've just described are important and how they relate to public confidence in elections?
Well, everything we do in Florida is to build voter confidence. And while we have 67 counties and 67 supervisors of elections who are independently elected constitutional officers, we have a uniform election code, and it's my job and your former job as the chief elections officer of the state to make sure that we accommodate the needs of our largest county in Miami-Dade and our smallest county in Liberty County, that they can all operate with different resources and funding at the county level, but they also follow the state law.
I'd like to go back to something else that was mentioned earlier in this hearing. There was reference made to what was described as Governor DeSantis's election police. In fact, Secretary Byrd, is that not the Florida Department of State's Office of Election Crimes and Security?
It is. It was one of the governor's top election integrity priorities to create the Office of Election Crimes and Security. That office, which is housed in the Department of State, we investigate allegations of election fraud and crimes. And I think it's really important to note that people think, when they think election fraud, they think of the presidential race. Election fraud includes campaign finance violations, voter registration fraud, initiative petition fraud, candidate qualifying fraud. We investigate all of those. And for all of the people who say there is no evidence of non-citizens voting and all of the, come to Florida. We have the evidence because I'm required, my office is required to report it to the governor and the legislature every year.
And if you would, touch on the petition gatherers, what that is, and explain for us why that is harmful to both the public and the elections process if there is fraud occurring during the petition gathering process.
Those initiative petitions change or have the potential to change our state constitution. They enshrine, if they pass, they enshrine it in state law. There are organizations and businesses that send people from out of state into the states, pay them to gather signatures. We have victims of felony identity theft. They have come and reported that to us, that their signature has been put that their identity has been stolen, their signature has been placed on a signature petition. We have a duty and obligation to investigate and provide relief to those victims, but also most of the reports of election fraud in Florida are reported by the county elections officials. It is happening, and it is our duty under the law to investigate.
And then one of the things, this question I'll direct to all of our secretaries who are here with us today. One of the things that we've heard discussed during this hearing is the Election Observer Program, which Congress administers across the country, and this committee runs that program, and we deploy trained congressional staff and send them around as those observers in elections offices around America. And I would like to hear from each of you on really just a yes or no if your office is prepared and ready to welcome these election observers during this election cycle. We'll start with you, Secretary Byrd.
Yes, we welcome them.
Proudly. Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
Happy to have them.
Right. Thank you all. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.